Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Mayday! Let me hear you. Happy Mayday! International Workers' Day. And here we are in the richest country in the world, and we don't honor the holiday where it began. I mean, we honor it here, but you know our brothers and sisters and siblings all over the world, many of them have the day off because they understand the significance of this holiday.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to the Struggle Video News. Tens of thousands of Israelis marched to the streets of Jerusalem in a Flag Day, a day to intimidate and terrorize the Palestinian population. In the morning, Palestinians under the age of 45 were banned from going to Al-Aqsa Mosque for prayers. Instead, perhaps as many as 800 settlers were allowed onto the grounds. In the streets of Jerusalem, the religious Zionists led the march, with hundreds chanting racist slogans like "Death to the Arabs." Another slogan claimed Jews have a soul while Arabs are the sons of prostitutes. Even the U.S. State Department was outraged, condemning, quote, outrageous and unacceptable, unquote, violence and racist behavior. Participants in the march also attacked journalists, injuring 3. CNN reporter Ben Wedeman was pushed around merely for trying to do his job.
Why are you pushing? Hey! Why are you pushing? We're press. We have press. Hey, why are you pushing us? I'm going to show you. You said 5 steps. Who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? Why are you pushing us? Hey, why are you pushing us? What are you doing? لا לשם? בוא, איזה מישהו כבר מדבר עברית? אתה מדבר עברית? English. You want to go there or there? No, but I do not want to be abused. You want to go?
The best news of this day were efforts by dozens of Israelis to block rightists from reaching the hate march. May 15th is marked by Palestinians and human rights advocates as Nakba Day, a day to remember the mass expulsions of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in 1947 and 1948. There was a protest in White Plains, New York, which is a city north of New York City. We'll start with part of the protest march.
so interesting because I keep
Earlier, they assembled on a sidewalk near a busy intersection.
Why did you come down today to White Plains?
Someone named Stan Heller sent me an email saying that there was a rally happening here today, so I thought that we would pull up and come protest because there wasn't anything happening in the state of Connecticut.
And we're also part of the Students for Justice of Palestine in Connecticut, which really is just a couple of members at Wesleyan's community, and we hold events like, what would you say, how many times a week?
I would say once a month.
Once a month, yeah. And really it's just to shed light on the human rights violations and Israel's lack of complying with international law.
So 75 years since the start of the expulsions. What are your thoughts today?
It's really devastating that we still have to be here protesting. I mean, we're both young, so we have only known the occupation, and even people of my parents' generation have only known the expulsion and occupation, but to be here with elders who, you know, were kicked out of their homes and where their siblings were or their relations were, and it's still in living memory, it's really tragic, and that those people are getting older in years, it's really upsetting that for so many of them, they might never be able to return home, and we just hope that soon, you know, this horrible catastrophe comes to an end and that we can stop protesting and that people can return to their villages and their homes.
I grew up in a Palestinian household. I'm Palestinian American. My mom tells me stories about how her father lost land, and the struggle 75 years ago is a struggle still today. I mean, as a Palestinian, it's a running joke that once you meet someone, we'll never let you forget that we're Palestinian, because it's sort of like a resistance to like erasure and an invisibility within the Palestinian community.
The march went to a square featuring a tall statue of Martin Luther King.
And it's not an accident that we are against the statue of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, and it says here, injustice anywhere, a threat to justice everywhere. That's why we're here. Everything we are doing today is symbolic, and everything we want this message to go across, and we will be talking to you more and more. And I'm going to pass now the mic to my colleague, my sister, my friend, Nada Khader, who's the Executive Director of Westchester People's Action Coalition, and at some point we'll tell you who is here, all the organizations. So, Nada.
Thank you so much, Professor Abdulhadi. Can you hear well? Can you hear us well? So we're going to start with the unofficial anthem of Palestine, and actually the composer of Mountainese related to Professor Abdulhadi.
He's a cousin of my parents.
So I have a beautiful rendition. I'm going to read the meaning first, and then we'll play it for you. My homeland, and deliverance, pleasure and hope are in your air, Will I see you, safely comforted and victoriously honored? Will I see you in your eminence, reaching to the stars, My homeland, the youth will not tire. Their goal is your independence, or they will die, they die. We will drink from death, we will not be to our enemies like slaves. We do not want an eternal humiliation, nor a miserable life. We do not want, but we will bring back our storied glory. My homeland. The sword and the pen, not the talk nor the quarrel, are our symbols. Our glory, our covenant, and a faithful duty moves us, is an honorable cause and a waving flag. Oh, behold you in your eminence, victorious over your enemies, my homeland. I'm going to play a very touching rendition by two young Palestinians.
موطني الجمال والجلال والسناء والبهاء في رباك والحياة والنجاة والهناء والرجاء في هواك في هواك هل أراك سالما منعما وغانما مكرما سالما منعما وغانما مكرما هل أراك في علاك تبلغ سيماك تبلغ سيماك موطني 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 الشباب لن يكل همه أن تستقل أو يعيد نستقي من الردى ولن نكون للعدا كالعبيد لا نريد ذلنا المؤبدا وعيشنا المنكدا ذلنا المؤبدا وعيشنا المنكدا لا نريد بل نعيد مجدنا التالي مجدنا التالي موطني موطني.
A woman was arrested in Royal Oak, Michigan for drawing a swastika on the side of a synagogue. She also wrote the word Azov. Now, Azov is the name of a Ukrainian military regiment. Putin, who thinks all Ukrainians are Nazis, thinks this doubly about the Azov regiment. So the purpose of this Russian fangirl was to blame Ukrainians for anti-Semitism. The story is breaking nationally now on May 18th, but actually she was arrested May 1st. She confessed to the crime, according to police, and said she intended to do more things like this to discredit Ukraine. The woman is named Randy Lucille Nord, and this is her police picture. She has a Twitter account. Now look at the accounts she follows. Do you see a pattern? Note Max Blumenthal and his gray zone crowd. That's the type she follows. The abs, the authoritarian bootlickers. Now, Randy Nord is not merely a crank. She's listed as a frequent contributor on the news website Mint Press News. Note her name here, pointed out by the red arrow. Now, if you ran a news site and one of your frequent contributors was arrested for either anti-Semitism or trying to make Ukrainians appear to be anti-Semitic, you think you would act. You would fire or suspend the writer or condemn what she had done. You would at least write something about it, but the weeks have gone by, and Mint Press News has said nothing about their frequent contributor, Randy Lucille Nord. Now something hopeful. In response to anti-immigrant measures being passed in Florida, Latino truckers are spearheading a boycott of the state, many refusing to deliver to addresses in Florida. Racists in that state should beware. Remember 2006, when millions of Latinos went on strike on that Mayday in a day without immigrants. Back to Mayday on the New Haven Green.
$73 billion in fossil fuel contracts.
This is our Connecticut coalition to stop Cop City, so it's a lot of different groups from the DSA Eco-Socialist Group, Workers' Voice, 350 CT, and some other people have contributed as well.
All right, so take us through it as if we don't know anything about it, and a lot of people don't.
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, the city of Atlanta, Georgia released their plans to build a huge, sprawling, militarized police training compound, and they plan to take down at least 85 acres of forest just on the outskirts of the city in order to build it. So since that point, people have been organizing against that. It's been a lot of locals organizing, like the people who live around the forest. It's a lot of low-income black and brown communities, and they, went to city council. They gave 17 hours of commentary against this proposal, and around that time as well, anarchists began occupying the forest, building tree forts, setting up tents, and performing direct actions against construction equipment that was moved into the forest. So thus far, construction has not really been able to begin. Originally, the facility was supposed to open this year, but they've barely broken ground due to all of the organizing against it. And then more recently, in the last several months, the police have been raiding the forest, the encampment, and in January, they actually murdered one of the protesters known as Tortuguita. And then also since last December, about 40 or so people have been arrested and charged with domestic terrorism for protesting, even people who were just in the forest and not necessarily tied to any direct action or anything more heinous than attending a music festival in a public park.
So we went to one of your first events in Bridgeport in the Cleveland Green. So what other kind of things are you doing?
We've done a couple things. I don't think we have anything planned after this, unless we're able to table at the Gandhi event as well. But yeah, we had in January the vigil for Tortuguita. We had a couple different actions in February targeting contractors in Connecticut that are contributing to the Cop City project. There's an Atlas Technical Consultants in East Hartford, and we had a protest at their office. And we also have protested at AXA XL in Stamford, which is the headquarters of one of the insurance companies behind one of the main Cop City contractors.
Citibank, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America. And the biggest of all, Chase Bank, their annual meeting is later this month. We unfurled huge banners blocking the doors. We spray chalked climate criminals on the bank's windows. We flyered thousands of Citibank employees as they left their skyscraper office building in Manhattan. But here's the thing, support for the banks moving to decarbonize actually went down among shareholders since last year. Of course, it's gone up among everybody else. For example, at Citibank, only 10% of Citi shareholders voted for ending funding for fossil expansion, and only 31% of shareholders urged the bank to ensure their energy clients are respecting indigenous rights and sovereignty. Citi has funded Line 3, a filthy oil pipeline, across indigenous lands in Minnesota, and the Dakota Access Pipeline, which thousands of indigenous people and their allies tried to stop at Standing Rock. and many other projects that violate indigenous rights and harm frontline communities. And less than a third of shareholders were even willing just to give lip service to respecting indigenous rights. Our capitalist, racist economy is like a huge battleship that is super slow to change direction and move towards sustainability. The problem is we don't have much time before climate-induced changes like the melting of ice in Greenland and Antarctica will cause sea level rise that threatens the billions of people living in coastal areas. Because of all the global warming gases we've already pumped into the atmosphere, some changes are inevitable, but others can be avoided or minimized if we stop digging the fossil fuel hole deeper. Saving the life of even one human or other living thing is what inspires me to keep working for climate justice. The Connecticut Climate Crisis Mobilization is working on an amendment to the Connecticut State Constitution that would guarantee all residents the right to clean and healthy air, water, soil, and environment, and a stable climate. It would raise the bar for the protection of communities most affected by pollution.
We are introducing my dear friend Eric Asare from DSA and All In. Eric, the mic is yours. Round of applause, please.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm with DSA, All In Ancillian Derby, and I organize with the Hamden Tenant Union. That's good. So why do you fight? Well, I fight because I grew up believing that many issues like racism that were fought against were won. But as growing up, I found out that that wasn't true. And then 2020 hit, and I saw issues just kept getting worse. So to give you all an idea, I grew up in neighborhoods where near me there were rents going up from $1,100 to $1,400 just in 1 year. So then I got involved in housing groups with people that cared about bringing community together to solve these issues. They have been fighting against the daily injustices tenants face from landlords. Where tenants across CT had faced the most evictions this past Valentine's Day, where rents have gone up 20%, well, over 20% the last 2 years, where tenant unions are demanding that LCI finally hold slumlords like Ocean accountable by proactively enforcing health and safety standards and doubling the number of housing code inspectors. And where ultimately we face a system that puts profits over people's lives and has worked to displace us and gentrify us from our neighborhoods.
A fiery speech by the president of the New Haven Federation of Teachers.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Mayday! Let me hear you. Happy Mayday! International Workers' Day. And here we are in the richest country in the world, and we don't honor the holiday where it began. I mean, we honor it here, but you know, our brothers and sisters and siblings all over the world, many of them have the day off because they understand the significance of this holiday. This crew understands the significance of this holiday, but we need, and I represent teachers, we need to do better, I'm owning it here, at teaching labor history so that this green is filled in years to come and that we can continue to demand that this day be recognized for the incredibly significant day that it is. International Workers' Day, Mayday. It is so good to be here with you all. So again, my name is Leslie Blatteau, and I'm the president of the New Haven Federation of Teachers. I represent almost 1,800, we represent almost 1,800 educators who work in New Haven public schools right now. So I know it's 3 years out from the pandemic beginning, but as a teacher, I always ask the question, what have we learned and how do we know? good teachers are asking those questions. So when we think about the pandemic, what have we learned from these past 3 years? First, that the world can't function without teachers. We knew this early on when everyone was freaking out about the shutdown, but pretty quickly they forgot that the world, the capitalist world that keeps spinning and spinning around, depends on the work of people in our public education systems. Not just teachers, paraprofessionals, school nurses, custodians, school secretaries. We know the work that's happening everywhere could not happen if our public schools weren't ready to support young people. So that's lesson number one. Lesson number two is that educators and people who work with students, they do so much more than just teach our students. We get to know our students. We build relationships with students. We serve as counselors. We cook meals for them. We feed them. We help them find resources. We do so many things to help them do the things they need to do as learners and as members of our community, and we prioritize that as union members. So let's be real here. Not only that, when teachers and teachers' unions go to the contract negotiating table, we also fight for things that will benefit our students.
We conclude with some photos of a terrific sculpture garden in Trenton, New Jersey. It's called Grounds for Sculpture. That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller for The Struggle Video News.